At the top high school in Wucha, Class 6 of grade 12 was as quiet as usual. A male student sitting at the front desk was dozing off, but suddenly woke up. His eyes filled with excitement as he shouted loudly, "Junior sister! Junior sister!" Realizing what was happening around him, he became even more confused. What the hell is going on? Just a few minutes ago, I was with junior sister entering the forbidden zone of the universe, but now I'm sitting in this classroom. Painful memories flooded back. Junior sister sacrificed her life to protect him. The more Chen Mo thought about it, the less he could understand what was happening. At that moment, a pen gently poked his back from behind. Chen Mo turned around and saw Zhao Gang, his high school classmate. Zhao Gang explained that it was currently an exam period, and Chen Mo had fallen asleep as usual. The entire class immediately turned their attention to Chen Mo, then burst into laughter at his shout of junior sister. "This guy must have read too many martial arts novels and gone nuts," someone commented. Beside them, Ang Yu, the school's beautiful campus belle, observed everything calmly. Despite her parents wanting her to be paired with Chen Mo, in Ang Yu's eyes, Chen Mo was nothing more than a foolish rich kid who could never compare to Zheng Yuanhao, a talented and confident young man. Zheng Yuanhao, sitting right in front of Chen Mo, smirked disdainfully. He didn't see Chen Mo as a rival and would never allow him to become Ang Yu's lover, the childhood sweetheart Zheng Yuanhao cherished. Not long after, the invigilator on the podium demanded that everyone return to their exam papers. He didn't care much about Chen Mo sleeping, as long as he didn't disturb others. Otherwise, he would be kicked out of the class. Seeing the teacher in front of him, Chen Mo was startled. "Isn't this my high school English teacher from back then?" A thought flashed through his mind. "If I'm not dead, could it be that I've been reincarnated into the past?" To verify this, Chen Mo immediately checked his body. There were no traces of the cultivation techniques he had mastered before, but his soul remained intact. This proved it wasn't an illusion. He had indeed been reincarnated into his teenage years. In his previous life, Chen Mo had lived a life of luxury but was eventually framed by the Wan family, leading to his downfall and forced suicide. Luckily, he was saved by Dongwei Immortal Emperor, who brought him onto the path of cultivation. After that, he and junior sister wandered the universe, uncovering the mysteries of heaven and earth. In that world, power was everything. Chen Mo swore that this time he would never regret anything. More importantly, junior sister might have also been reincarnated on Earth. He needed to cultivate quickly, restore his strength, and find her. As Chen Mo remained motionless, the invigilator grew angry and shouted, "If you don't want to take the exam, get out." Hearing this, Chen Mo simply shrugged and walked straight out of the classroom, leaving everyone around him astonished. What is he planning to do? They wondered. For Chen Mo, now that he had been reincarnated, exams were trivial and unimportant. The only thing that mattered was restoring his cultivation. In his previous life, he had cultivated through 8 stages: key condensation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, soul transformation, integration, tribulation transcendence, and the great ascension. The highest realm he had reached was soul transformation. But this time, he had to start over from key condensation. Remembering the lessons from his past life, he understood that caution and stability were key to advancing further. After calming his mind, the cultivation techniques he had practiced before gradually became clear in his memory. After some thought, Chen Mo decided to choose the Xuanqian Divine Dragon technique, a solid and suitable method for his current situation to build a strong foundation. He began absorbing spiritual energy into his body, focusing intently to channel it into his dantian. In just 15 minutes, Chen Mo opened his eyes, astonished. The speed of his absorption was remarkable. Reincarnation truly brought many advantages. At that moment, Ang Yu and Zheng Yuanhao, accompanied by a group of classmates, approached him. "What are you doing here?" Ang Yu asked irritably. Before he could answer, Zheng Yuanhao interjected with a series of sarcastic remarks, causing the surrounding students to burst into laughter. But Chen Mo ignored the mockery completely. Instead, his gaze shifted to Jian Yao, a gentle girl standing beside Ang Yu. Jian Jiao came from an ordinary merchant family and had always stood by Chen Mo in every situation. However, in his past life, he had failed to cherish her feelings. Ankyu, seeing Chen Mo ignore her, became even more annoyed. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" she demanded. But Chen Mo completely ignored her and turned to ask Jiang Yao, "Did you do well in this exam?" Jiang Yao was surprised, and joy instantly lit up her face. She didn't expect Chen Mo to overlook Ankyu and show concern for her instead. "It was okay," she replied softly. Chen Mo gently patted her head and smiled. "If you get into the top ranks, I'll give you a special gift." His promise made Jiang Yao happy, and she nodded immediately. After that, Chen Mo said goodbye and promised to see her in 3 days. Watching his departing figure, Ankyu couldn't believe what had just happened. She gritted her teeth and thought, "He's just pretending." However, in Chen Mo's memory, a major disaster was about to happen to Jiang Yao. Now that he had been reincarnated, he vowed to prevent it this time. As he walked away, Chen Mo suddenly remembered that his parents had arranged for him to live with Ankyu. But thinking about her, he felt no interest at all. However, if he wanted to rent a place of his own, he had no money. After some thought, he came up with a plan to earn money. That evening, at a park somewhere, Chen Mo sat by the roadside, selling some handmade talismans. But business was unexpectedly slow, completely contrary to his expectations. Passers-by looked on with disdain, assuming that even students were resorting to scams these days. Who still believes in such superstitions nowadays? Someone scoffed. Faced with such comments, Chen Mo remained silent, unwilling to argue. In a bustling crowd, encountering 1 or 2 ignorant people was normal. As he grew disheartened, a young woman suddenly appeared and asked about the talisman's functions. Chen Mo explained that they helped with mental clarity, warded off evil, and brought luck and good health. Hearing about mental clarity, the woman became intrigued and asked urgently, "If someone has disordered thoughts and often talks nonsense, can they be cured?" From her description, Chen Mo immediately understood it was a case of yin-yang imbalance, which modern medicine referred to as neurasthenia. He pointed to one of the talismans and told her to take it. Regarding the price, he replied without hesitation, "There's a 3,000 yuan type, a 2,000 yuan type, and the ones over there are 1,000 yuan. Before Chen Mo could finish speaking, another girl appeared with a murderous expression, scolding him, asking why he didn't just go and rob people. She then turned to Kim Pei-yun, advising her not to trust such things, insisting that he was merely scamming passers-by. However, due to her grandmother's worsening condition, Pei-yun decided to give it a try. Thinking it was worth a shot, even if it turned out to be a scam, she was willing to take the risk. Pei-yun decisively transferred money to Chen Mo, purchasing a talisman for 30,000 yuan. Seeing her filial piety, Chen Mo added a few extra talismans and instructed her on how to use them. Simply stick one on the patient's forehead and shout "case." Before leaving, Lai Shennin warned him that if the talismans didn't work, she would hunt him down no matter where he hid. The next morning, Chen Mo had rented a spacious house as a temporary residence. Wasting no time, he resumed his cultivation. As for Kim Pei-yun, the talismans remained unused. After inquiring about her grandmother's condition, her grandfather informed her that there had been no improvement. Just an hour earlier, her grandmother had experienced a seizure, and the frequency of these attacks was increasing. Before he could finish speaking, Pei-yun interrupted, pulling out the talismans she had purchased the day before, claiming they were gifted by a master and that she wanted to give them a try. As expected, her grandfather did not trust such things, thinking they would only add to her grandmother's suffering. However, moved by his granddaughter's determination, he reluctantly agreed to let her proceed. Standing before the bed, Pei-yun quietly placed a talisman on her grandmother's forehead, just as Chen Mo had instructed, and then shouted "case." Having already predicted failure, both she and her grandfather were disheartened when nothing happened. If even the best neurologists in Yanqin couldn't help, how could a mere talisman work? Before he could finish his sentence, the talisman on the old woman's forehead suddenly dissolved, transforming into a radiant light that flew straight into her head. Both grandfather and granddaughter were stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. Moments later, the grandmother slowly sat up and called out Kim Pei-yun's name. Pi-yun approached, asking if she recognized her. The old woman replied with clarity, "You're my granddaughter." Her grandfather, shocked to the core, immediately urged Pi-yun to call the doctor. After a thorough examination, the doctor was equally astonished, confirming that the old woman was now completely healthy, as if by a miracle. After the doctor left, her grandfather demanded Pi-yun recount every detail about purchasing the talisman, sparing no details. Learning that the seller was a high school student, he instructed her to mobilize all available resources to investigate Chen Mo's background. He intended to meet him personally. Meanwhile, at the rented house, Chen Mo lay exhausted on his bed. Due to the Earth's barren spiritual energy, he would need another 3 days to reach the key condensation stage. Picking up his phone, he anticipated his mother's call about his grandmother's passing. As expected, as soon as he